colleagues and students, welcome to the first seminar of online interdisciplinary seminar series in the Faculty of Architecture that has been considered with the collaboration of Institute of Graduate Studies. We hope these sessions will broaden students' perspective towards current challenges in societies and inspire them to approach these challenges with innovative ideas. Interdisciplinary work is very important for every discipline, as well as architects. In the oldest written source on architecture that belongs to the Roman thinker and architect Vitruvius, says that the architect should have a good written language, have a good knowledge of geometry, have a knowledge of history, have studied philosophy, have an understanding of music, are not familiar with medical science, know the truth of jurists, and have a knowledge of theoretical knowledge of astronomy when making the definition of an architect. Architect Sinan was not only an architect, but also has been the subject of investigation in the field of engineering. The technical solutions of his buildings have been subject of examination in the field of engineering, and the decisions related to the access or perception of the buildings in the cities have been the areas of study of urban planning department and acoustic solutions of sound engineering. Increased knowledge in all these subjects, which were under the definition of an architect, developed and separated specialties from the architectural profession. But today, collaboration between other disciplines are very important. For example, research in biology or social insects has begun to examine how nest architecture influences the collective behavior of colonies. Research in social and cognitive sciences on humans has begun to investigate how buildings or environmental factors can alter social behavior. Interdisciplinary design shares the same basic meaning. They are about abandoning a single disciplinary approach and cooperating with other professions to solve problems. Design has the capability to change the world for the better, and when used appropriately, it can be more powerful tool than any single area, such as technology, engineering, or biology. Through interdisciplinary design, people can gain capability to solve complex social problems. Consequently, interdisciplinary design is what happens when design thinking is applied to the multilateral society. It also embodies the interaction between people and the world. Today, Associate Professor Engin will be with us with his presentation on ecological preservation. We thank him very much for his contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zeynep. We are very happy to share our knowledge with my students, PhD students, about environment. Environmental issues have always been important for the societies, for the human, for all the world. And we would like to share the new findings and new perspectives about environmental issues. Our first presentation will come from my student, PhD student, Ali Zubaru, and he's going to present a new perspective about COVID, an update issue, very update issue. Up-to-date issue, and here we are going to connect COVID-19 pandemic with environmental issues. automatically we all talking about COVID-19 as its negative effects. But can COVID-19 pandemic or the others be benefited by the human in a contrary way? This question we ask to ourselves, and we would like to answer it, putting, as I said, a new perspective about the effects of COVID-19, to discuss the effects of COVID-19 in a very new, up-to-date issue with environmental issues, connecting with the environmental issues. I would like to thank Nearest University Broadcasting for giving us the chance to share our knowledge and views. Thank you very much. I would like to introduce my PhD student, Ali Zubariu, for his presentation. Hello, Ali.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Is my screen visible, please? So that you can go ahead. Okay, so I will be presenting a paper that is titled Impact Assessment of Global Pandemic on the Environment in Case of COVID-19. Now, the environment is defined as natural world comprising of biotic and abiotic factors. As a whole, or a particular geographical area typically affected by human and animal activities. The ecology is a term used to describe the relationship between the biotic and abiotic factors. Ecosystem is a community of living organisms in conjunction with the non-living components of the environment, interacting as a system. A pandemic is an epidemic of infectious disease that has spread across a large region, especially affecting multiple continents or worldwide. The coronavirus disease is a contagious disease caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, that's SARS-CoV-2. It was first identified on a host in Wuhan, China in December 2019. It has resulted in a significant reduction in economic and social activities, with the subsequent enforcement of lockdown in most cities worldwide. Schools, offices, and factories had their activities limited. Now, assessing the merits of the pandemic. Since the onset of the pandemic, the world has tremendously recorded a great deal of loss in terms of human lives, sources of livelihood, a swift decline in revenue for most countries, and some of them even declared a state of economic recession. In spite of all these setbacks, it can be clearly observed that the environment has rather experienced some sort of reformation, which can be identified as the following. Less industrial activities. Now, the key segment of manufacturing had started shutting down in response to the lockdown orders issued by the respective governments. Within few months, the demand for energy globally has fallen drastically. The oil industry has ground to a halt as demand has slumped. The coal use has fallen by at least 40% in China's 6 largest power plants since the last quarter of 2019. Now, the second merit that we can observe is the impact it has on air quality. Due to the pandemic impact on travel industry, many regions and the planet as a whole experienced a drop in air pollution. Air quality levels in the world's major cities improved dramatically in March and April. Air quality improved largely because of a reduction in factory and road traffic emissions of carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and ozone formation. According to the NASA and ESA reports, the economic slowdown from the virus drastically dropped pollution levels, especially in cities like Wuhan, China, by 25 to 40%. Now, the impact on water quality. For decades, the hydrosphere has been severely polluted because of rapid urbanization, industrialization, and overexploitation. During the lockdown period, the major industrial sources of pollution that affected aquatic ecosystem, such as industrial wastewater disposal, crude oil, heavy metals, and plastics, have shrunk or completely stopped. This resulted in improved water quality with the increase in dissolved oxygen and reduced nitrate concentration. Therefore, the level of pollution has been reduced to some extent in large water bodies. Now, the impact on environmental noise level. The imposition of lockdown measures by most governments has caused the noise level to drop considerably in most cities in the world. Reduced noise levels are associated with higher reproductive success, less migration, and ultimately lower mortality rates. Seismologists are reporting less seismic noise or vibrations in the Earth's crust. For instance, seismic noise caused by human activity in Brussels, Belgium, is reported to be down by 1/3 compared to the pre-lockdown levels. Now, the impact on wildlife and habitats. Nature and wildlife have replenished itself during the lockdown. According to the Bombay Natural History Society, there has been a 25% increase in flamingo migration since 2019. German scientist Rainer Frost has said the fish biomass will increase due to the sharp decline in fishing. In the United States, vehicle pollution with animals such as deer, elk, moose, bears, mountain lions has fallen by 58% during March and April. But the impact on soil quality. Soils carrying natural resources took a break from exploration due to the closure of factories and exploration sites around the globe. Even though the soil requires a longer period of time to get revitalized and recover, the imposed lockdown will yield a little difference for the soil. Burrowing animals that help in the process of pedotubation will also help to boost the recovering process of the overexploited soils. Now, of course, the demerits of the pandemic will also be identified, and it can be generalized as an increase in waste generation. Organic waste generated by households has increased due to a surge in demand for online shopping and home delivery. Food purchased online is shipped, packed, so inorganic waste has also increased. Plastic packaging has increased in popularity during the lockdown pandemic. In the United States, reusable bags have been banned in many states. The increase in single-use plastics will have long-term impact on the environment. There has been an increase in medical waste from discarded PPE kits, worn masks and gloves, and empty hand sanitizer bottles. While contributing to other problems, clogging drainage systems, litter, and releasing pollutants when prone. Level of methane emissions, a greenhouse gas from decaying products, are expected to rise sharply in the crisis and immediate post-crisis months. Now, discussion. Following the brief highlight on the impact of the pandemic on the environment as shown above, these points could be noted. 1. Even though the pandemic has taken a toll on the lives of humans as well as the economy, it can clearly be stated that the environment has experienced a considerable level of revitalization. The air, water, and soil quality will have experienced a considerable level of improvement since the introduction of lockdown measures by reducing pollution for air and water, while reducing the rate at which our soils are explored for natural resources. Nonetheless, the pandemic has posed some negative effects on the environment as well, especially a higher level of inorganic waste generated due to an increase in the use of plastic containers, polythene bags, and the unused face masks. A very important lesson ought to have been learned from this experience, which is to be more environmental friendly, reduce the usage of devices which produce greenhouse gases, and respect other laws set aside to ensure the sustainability of the environment. Now here's a picture of a used face mask recovered from the beach of an ocean. Now, issues and challenges. Decreasing greenhouse gas concentration during a short period is not a sustainable way to clean up our environment. It requires a long period of time, of course. For a significant decline, there should be a long-term structural change in the country's economies. The economies have become very weak, and therefore, supporting the fight against climate change is going to be very difficult. Severe cuts in agricultural and fishery export levels have led to the generation of large quantities of organic wastes. Medical waste can easily be mixed with domestic waste. They should be treated as hazardous waste and disposed of separately. In conclusion, the reduced pollution level and replenished wildlife is a silver lining amidst COVID-19 crisis. It is an eye-opener for mankind, but this has come at a major humanitarian cost, taking a toll on both human life and the economy. A long-term vision with a targeted stimulus towards sustainable goals is a need of the hour. Many of the environmental challenges caused by the coronavirus crisis will gradually resolve on their own once the crisis comes to an end and previous levels of economic activity will resume. The need for action. Attention must be given to threats on the environment and natural resource bases as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Need for environmental action when economies reopen. Now is the time to realize the importance of sustainable development. The repeated outbreak of pandemics like SARS, MERS, Ebola might be as a result of climate change, desertification, loss of biodiversity, and illegal trading of wildlife. In order to successfully avert such crises in the future, we have to respect nature and biodiversity. Governments should also make developmental policies, keeping in mind the environmental challenges. The coronavirus crisis also presents the world with an opportunity to invest in clean energy and ensure a cleaner future. Here are some of the references resulted. Thank you for listening.
Okay, Aliyu, thank you very much for your presentation. It was a very nice one, as we thought. And now I would like to give the speech to Adebayo, another student, master student from Environmental Education and Management Department. And he is going to talk about never-ended issue, the climate change. Still, we encounter its effects, and the power and the effect or the changes made are not still yet turn it to a positive one. But we as humans struggling for that. It's a big challenge to make people change. So climate change is still an issue for us. So we'd like to share our new findings and share our knowledge about climate change. Yes, Adebayo, it's your turn. Thank you for your presentation. And
Okay, good evening. My name is Adebayo Temitayo. The topic is environmental effects of climate change. Firstly, we have to know the meaning of climate change before we can go to the effects of climate change in our environment. Climate change, according to Oxford Languages Dictionary, is a change in global or regional climate patterns, global scale of that impacts have been unprecedented. It includes the global warming driven by human emission of greenhouse gases and the resulting large-scale shifts in weather patterns. Though there have been previous periods of climate change since the mid-20th century, the rate of human impact on Earth's climate system Climate change brings about a range of effects, many of them related to global warming. Most of these effects are negative and have devastating environmental, economic, and social consequences. Scientists, politicians, and industrialists continue to debate the causes of global warming, with some arguing it's a natural process that has been going on for centuries. In February 2007, the United Nations released a scientific report which concluded that global warming is happening and will continue to happen for centuries. In 2013, the UN called for a global response to combat climate change. The report stated with 90% certainty that the activity of humans has been the primary cause of increasing temperature over the past few decades. Now, let's go to the effects of climate change in our environment. We want to know how climate change affects us in our environment. Impacts from climate change are happening now. These impacts extend well beyond an increase in temperature, thereby affecting ecosystems and communities around the world. It also affects the things that we depend upon and value, such as water, energy, transportation, wildlife. It also affects our agriculture, ecosystems, and human health. For example, human health are experiencing these effects of changing in climate. The first thing that happens is it altered our habitats, like it altered our plants. Climate change also affects animals and plants as the world experiences further climate changes in rainfall and temperature. Forecasts show that 30% of land-based bird species could become extinct if temperatures continue to rise. Climate change will also have a negative impact on plants, insect species, and on parts of the world rainforest. Some butterflies, foxes, and earthing plants have been migrated to colder regions because of this climate change. This is an example of an animal that is being altered because of climate change. Number two, climate change and problems with water quality. Climate change is having serious impacts on world's water system through flooding, drought, as well as more extreme rain patterns. This creates further pressures on rivers and lakes that supply water for people and animals. What is more, the world's oceans are also put at risk. That is, climate change also affects the oceans. Oceans are considered carbon sinks because they absorb huge amounts of carbon dioxide, limiting its potential to contribute to further global warming. However, increase in water temperatures and ever increasing carbon dioxide concentrations means that oceans are changing and becoming more acidic, which affects fish and other marine organisms living there. This is an example of flood. Climate change and diminishing food security. Rising temperatures are affecting our climate, and as a result, it affects our environment and the function it delivers. One such key function is nutrient replenishment. Climate change puts nutrient cycles at risk, which has a knock-on effect on soil fertility. Such effect is not only important in terms of preserving biodiversity and habitat, but it is also critical for agricultural activity and food security. More specifically, as soils become more drier with climate change, this impacts nitrogen and carbon concentrations, which are the building blocks for plant growth. Another one is climate change and worse air pollution. Climate change also has an impact on air quality. According to a recent study, by the end of the century, more than half of the world's population will be exposed to increasingly stagnant atmospheric conditions, with the tropics and subtropics, bearing the brunt of the poor air quality. Air stagnation results from three meteorological incidents, which are light, winds, and a stable lower atmosphere, and they with little or no precipitation to wash away pollution. If greenhouse gases were to rise significantly in the future, estimates indicate that 55% of the global population will experience more air stagnation by 2099. Another effect of climate change in our environment is that it has impact on Earth. Climate change also has impact on Earth. For example, it increases flooding events, and this may cause waterborne infectious diseases to spread, such as malaria carried by mosquitoes. This is common in African countries. As a result, in heat waves, it can also cause death among the old and very young people. The heat wave in 2023 is estimated to have caused over 2,000 extra deaths in England and Wales, and 35,000 deaths in other parts of Europe like Italy, Spain, and France. Another research by the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine found that between 540 and 760 deaths could be attributed to the oil spill that happened in England and Wales back in 2013. Another effect of climate change in our environment is that it has extreme weather conditions. Hurricanes and other storms are likely to become stronger and more frequent as global warming takes effect. Climate change can increase the frequency of heat waves, floods, and drought conditions around the world. Europe and the UK, such as Cyprus, will likely experience hotter summers. Floods and droughts will become more common. For example, rainfall in Ethiopia, where droughts are already common, could decline by 10% over the next 50 years. The last effect I'm going to talk about is migration. People will migrate from areas suffering droughts when there is climate change, and anybody that remains will be in danger of dying from starvation and lack of water. Communities that use the meltwater from glaciers may see this supply decrease. This is especially the case in Asia countries. Less fresh water will be available. If the Kulkaya ice cap in Peru continues to melt as it happens like this, as it is happening currently, it will be gone by 2100, leaving thousands of people who rely on it for drinking water and electricity without a source of either. Climate change increased immigration of those from poorer or low-lying countries to wealthier or safer countries, thereby seeking for better conditions. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Okay, Adebayo, thank you very much for your nice presentation about the climate change. My professor, Zeynep Hocam.
Yes, Hocam, thank you very much for all your contributions to our graduates, students, as well as undergraduate students are in the link at the moment. It was very nice to hear what our master and PhD students are working about, and those contributions that you have made, I'm sure that has been very useful for all the disciplines, which climate change and pandemic conditions are the main problems we are facing at the moment. We have to be very careful to leave the world as a heritage to our next generations before it gets too late. Maybe it's already too late. Thank you very much, Hocam, for all your contributions.
Zeynep Hocam, we are very happy to collaborate with you, the architects, and we think that the architecture is always suffering from, let's say, acid rains and the other environmental problems born in the world, new problems. We would like to, of course, continue this collaboration with you. Maybe in a few decades, you will need to put air conditioners or funds to the buildings. I don't know. I'm just imagining to give people healthy air because of the air pollution. I hope that we don't see those days, and we as environmentalists work hard not to suffer from just such things, such problems. But I'm very happy to give you us the chance to reach the architecture students, as you said, and all the people listening to us, watching to us. Thank you very much again for giving us this chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hocam. Thank you very much also.
You're welcome.
Actually, we are working on zero carbon buildings to be realized, but it is quite difficult to achieve when the cities are under question. In the rural parts of the countries, it might be more successful, but in metropoles or in crowded urban cities, it's nearly impossible. Actually, England did a lot of work in that manner, Norwegian also, but we still following them, but could achieve very little.
Okay, thank you. Achievement is very important. Step by step, maybe slowly, but it shows our insist. It shows our goals for the future generations. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jam, for all your contributions. I think there are questions to be asked, if I did not see wrong. Questions?
I think. Okay. Yes, you are right, and you can. Okay, he can mention. I think someone would like to mention about something. He can mention it. Hocam, would you agree that if someone would like to share their ideas about the issue? I think.
For sure. For sure. Questions are very welcome.
Okay, thank you. I think Adrian Samuel, yes, would
But
like
I don't
to
know
ask a
how
question.
they will participate to this session.
I don't know, but Mr. Barish will solve the problem.
I think it's not possible, Hocam.
Okay,
Thank you.
items
are
are
right.
Okay, we can see the messages now.
Yes. Activities of human beings, the major cause of climate change. Would you please list some of those activities? Maybe Adebayo might.
Adebayo, can you see this screen and would like to answer that question? I think Barish, Mr. Barish will put him into yes. Yeah.
Adebayo, okay.
Okay. Adebayo, can you open your camera and microphone, please? Okay, I think he's coming. No.
It's not possible. Next time, Hocam.
Okay, thank you.
He came.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Adebayo.
you.
Okay.
Can you answer the question? May you please?
Yeah, I can answer the question. One of the major activities of human beings that can affect the cause of climate change is, let me start with deforestation. Firstly, we have to know the meaning of deforestation. Deforestation means cutting down of grasses, of trees. When there is deforestation, it tends to affect our environment, and it also affects our farming system and livestock in the environment. It's one of the major effects, major cause of climate change that can be caused by human beings. The solution to it is you have to keep on planting. We have to keep on planting trees in our environment. We have to keep on planting. We should forget about deforestation. We should not be cutting down of grasses or trees in the forest.
Adebayo, maybe you can talk about fossil fuels as well.
You said?
Fossil fuels as well. You can talk about fossil fuels.
Yeah, fossil fuels is also there. And also farming livestock as well.
Okay. Any more questions, Zeynep Hocam?
I think there is no any more questions.
Okay.
We can close the session. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
I'm catching a bus, never